Welcome to another installment of Salesforce Revenue Cloud Office Hours. My name is Sean Garvins. I am the owner and principal architect at Garvins Consulting. I'm going to change the structure a little bit of the office hours to include a deep dive into a specific topic each week. We'll start with a specific topic, and then from there, I will go ahead and elaborate on that topic and then field any questions either about that topic or something else. Today, I want to talk through one of the most fundamental parts of understanding Salesforce Revenue Cloud, or even Salesforce Sales Cloud, because sometimes you don't have CPQ, you don't have one of these quoting tools yet, and you're still using opportunity products. Maybe you're not even using opportunity products yet in your org. You might just be using opportunities and putting an amount in. That's where most companies start. They will begin with an opportunity before they even have Salesforce CPQ, and then they will expand from there as the business matures and gets more sophisticated. This section of deep dive is based on some feedback that I got from a viewer who wanted more basic Revenue Cloud information. So I thought, well, let's pick some topics and add them as sort of a curriculum at the beginning. Hey, Melody. I'm doing a quick intro to a new structure of the office hours to include a deep dive into a specific topic. So today's topic is going to be the fundamentals of the objects involved in Revenue Cloud, what we have to have, what comes out of the box, and where everything starts. And I'm just giving a quick overview of that and why, since we had some candid feedback from a viewer. Let's start with an assumption that the customer or the client or you, if you're the admin of your org, you're already using Salesforce Sales Cloud. You already have accounts, contacts, opportunities, leads even. I'm not going to worry about leads right now. I'm going to start assuming that you're already using opportunities. Perhaps you don't use opportunity products. Perhaps you don't even have CPQ. Perhaps you're not using standard quotes either. Let's just start from the opportunity and start building out from there. All right. At that level, I have my opportunity. The opportunity is where I'm managing the deal as a whole. This is where we fall into opportunity management. I've got my opportunity stages. I have my close dates, the opportunity amount that I'm tracking so that I can forecast my sales and have a better idea on where my business is going. The opportunity is a child object of an account. These are the accounts that are created either when you convert leads, or maybe you just don't convert leads yet. Perhaps you just create accounts. Different businesses have different processes. I think leads are an overlooked function of a lot of customers that I've worked with. They are not always used, but perhaps should be in many cases. That's a topic for another day. Our opportunities roll up to the account. I can have many opportunities on an account. If you're new to the idea of entity relationship diagrams or ERDs, that's what this symbol means here. I have a one-to-many relationship. One account can have many opportunities. We see the many designated here by the little fork at the bottom, and that's connected to a singular object up top. After a while, perhaps a company buys Salesforce, they just start using it to track leads, accounts, contacts, and opportunities. Fantastic. But at a certain point, someone will say, well, that's great, but we sell products. We sell multiple products at this company, and we want to start to get better insight into how we track those products. Let's start incorporating the use of products on the opportunity. So we're going to have opportunity products. It's a clever name for the object. But there's a dependency here, because before I can use opportunity, before I can add products to an opportunity, I first have to have products in the system. Now let's go over here and start talking about products, price books, and price book entries and the relationships of these objects between each other. I'm going to start with products. What is a product? Let's start with that. A product is something you sell at your business at a fundamental level. You'll often run into arguments against that when stakeholders at clients or customers say, well, we are a services business, we don't sell products. Well, the unit of service, that hour of labor, that deliverable, that fixed fee project, all of these different things could be considered products as well. The fact of the matter is we have one object on which to store all the stuff that we sell in our business, and the object we're going to use for that is the product object. The API name is product2. I suspect that's because there was a product originally way back in the day, and at some point it was re-architected, and then they called the new object product2. But product2 is where everything starts. My business sells products. Even if I sell services, that is a product. It is a thing that I sell to a customer. Without selling things to customers, I don't stay in business. I can't make money. Now, if you remember from your youth, like mine, you'd go to grandma's house and I would look through this giant Sears catalog. I don't know if you remember those, giant thick Sears or JCPenney or whatever catalogs. You flip through there and you see all of the different stuff that JCPenney sells. And along with that, you would see the specific product codes of here's what this shirt's called, this sweater is called this t-shirt is called that. And you would see a price next to it. Conceptually, that's what these products price books and price book entries represent, are that big catalog that you get, or I get the LL Bean catalog, my comfy LL Bean sweater, right? I can look in that catalog and I could find this particular sweater and see what the price is for that sweater. That's the basic framework and structure that we're putting in place when we're talking about products, price books, and price book entries. That big ass catalog is my price book. Inside the price book, you see products. But what I'm really seeing in that price book are price book entries. A price book entry tells us what the price is for a product in a price book. And the relationship here is as follows. My product can have multiple price book entries. In other words, I might have a price of 10 US dollars and 11 Canadian dollars and whatever Japanese yen, euro, etc. Similarly, price books can have multiple price book entries as well. I can look at my standard price book and see price book entries that connect to that product. We can essentially think of the price book entry as a junction object between a product and a price book. If it's an easier visualization for you, we could actually think of it more like this, where I have a product that links here, and I have a price book, and that links here. So we could start to see the relationships come together. Now, let's bring this into CPQ. In order to use CPQ, you must have all three of these objects. Without price book entries, you literally cannot use CPQ. You must have price book entries. Even if your pricing is derived through some other mechanism, you still have to have price book entries for the products that you want to sell. And I can explain the reasons why in a little bit. Even if I was using core Sales Cloud and I wasn't using CPQ at all, but I wanted to have opportunity products on my opportunity, I would still need to have price book entries and products and price books, because it is this structure, this trilogy, that drives everything. This is the foundation of the entire house that we're building. And if we don't have that whole foundation in place, It's not going to work the way we want it to work. Once I have, whether it's Sales Cloud alone or Sales Cloud plus Salesforce CPQ, once we have the products, price book entries, and price books in place, then we can incorporate our opportunity product. The opportunity product is a child of the opportunity and drives functionality at that opportunity level, which I'll explain in just a moment. You could think of the opportunity product as a junction between, as a junction between the product and the opportunity. Come on, I'm a perfectionist. There we go. All right. So let's review where we are. I start with an account. I've been using Salesforce for a while. My accounts are created in the system, and I want to sell a deal. So I create an opportunity record on the account. I can create as many opportunity records as I want. Again, if you're new to ERDs or entity relationship diagrams, this little pitchfork down here at the bottom indicates to me that this is a one-to-many relationship. One account can have many opportunities. One opportunity can have many opportunity products. Similarly, a product can be used as an opportunity product on many opportunities. A product can have multiple price book entries. This is very common in scenarios where you have multi-currency enabled, which we can talk about in another call. But if I had a company that sold products in the United States and Canada, I would need a US dollar price and a Canadian dollar price. Therefore, I would need multiple price book entries. I'll show a little bit differently how these relate and how the records correspond to one another here in just a little bit. And then price books. Price books are those collections of price book entries for specific products. I may choose to include all of my products in a price book, or I may choose to include a subset of my products in a price book. There's no right answer here. It all depends on the business. It's the notorious yet always correct answer from a consultant of it depends. How many price books should I use? It depends. How many products should we have? It depends. How many price book entries do we need? It depends. What are the levers affecting your business, and how does your business need to run? Those are the questions that are going to drive how many of these records we need, which types, etc. Common questions regarding these three core objects of products, price books, and price book entries are, how do I know when to create a product? How do I know how many price books I need? How do I know how many price book entries I need? Well, let's start with a very simple example. When you have Sales Cloud, you will have a standard price book. You could think of this as the master price book, the one that rules them all, okay? You'll always have a standard price book. You can only have one standard price book. You can have many price books, but only one of them is the standard price book, the one from which all other price books are derived. And so you can start thinking about this from that point. In a very basic example, let's assume for a moment that we sell one product in one currency and we have only one price book. We're a very simple business. Perhaps you're a consulting business and the only product you sell is consulting hours. Okay, great. I sell an hour of consulting for a specific price. And I'm only doing business in the United States right now. So let's model this out. What will I create in the system? We already know, imagine this is now a separate diagram here. I have my standard price book. I know I have a standard price book. It's always there once I have Sales Cloud. And I know that I can have only one standard price book, just the way it works. It's the logic. Similarly, with quotes, I can have many quotes, but I can only have one primary quote. You can have many contact roles, but you can have only one primary contact role. The same principle applies. Ultimately, we can only have one throat to choke. Even though I've set up the Sales Cloud platform, I have a Sales Cloud license, I'm using it, etc. I have my standard price book. Until I actually create records for the products that I sell, I can't sell them. What am I selling? Well, now I got to create a product. I'm going to call this principal architect. That's me. Hi, I'm the principal architect, and a unit of my labor, an hour of my labor is what is for sale. Okay. I've created a product record in the system for principal architect, and I have my standard price book. But I need that third object created. I still don't know what's the price. A mistake that I see quite a bit is that customers will create like some sort of custom currency field or something on the product record itself, which is a whole other can of worms. Don't do that. Bad idea. The price book entry is how we determine the price of products. Because what happens if I start selling in 120 currencies? Are you really going to create 120 currencies on currency fields on the product record? I've seen it done, maybe not to that extent, but I've seen it done where simply because someone didn't know that price book entries existed or didn't know how to use them, they created dozens of currency fields on the product record and used those instead. And long story short, it creates problems. And that's why I have a job. Now, how do I tell the system that an hour of consulting is $275? We need to give the system more information. We need to create a price book entry for that. I'm going to pull this in. This is 275. But that's not all of my information. USD. Here's an important distinction. If you do not have multi-currency enabled, then the assumption is that this currency will be whatever your org currency is. When you create a new instance of Salesforce, part of your company information is telling Salesforce what is your company's currency. If I was in the EU, I'd probably be in euro, or now that we've had Brexit, in pound sterling, or maybe it's in Canadian dollars if I'm a Canadian firm, and so on. You actually won't see the currency field on these objects unless and until you enable multi-currency. So to know the currency of your org, you go into your company information. It's right there. You can see what your currency is. You could change it if you want. I caution you on that, especially if you've been doing it one way for a long time. Now you've effectively told the system that all data in the system is now in a whole new currency, which is a separate challenge to worry about. But we need to be aware of these different things as we move forward and start architecting our solution. So now the assumption here is that I have 275 USD. Let's make our scenario a little bit more complicated. Let's just say that I start doing business in Canada. I have an opportunity right now, actually, that's with a Canadian firm. I don't think I'll just be using dollars because I don't want to get into that mess yet. But let's just say that I want to sell in Canadian dollars and US dollars. In addition to enabling multi-currency for my org, I also need to make decisions about whether or not I want to enable advanced currency management, which is a whole other topic for another time. We're going to keep this simple. We just enabled multiple currencies, and now I have more currencies available. I set up my exchange rates, blah, blah, blah in the system. In order to sell this product, this principal architect, or this widget, or this tractor, tire, whatever, in two currencies, I need to have price book entries for each currency for each price. So you could think of it as the way the data works out is you're effectively multiplying your number of products by your number of price is in your number of currencies and your number of price books. There's an exponentially increasing number then. If I have one product and only one currency and only one price book, I will have 3 records. If I have 2 currencies, now we have 2 records. We have, say, 300 Canadian dollars, because I need to have one price book entry for each currency. One of these price book entry records can hold information for only one currency at a time. You have one field for the price, you have one field for the currency. Systematically, Salesforce also limits you from duplicating this, which is really useful because you wouldn't want to have $275 and $250 on the same product for the same price book. The system would get confused. Well, which one do you want me to use? So automatically, Salesforce controls for that. But let's look at our relationships. Our first relationship here is connecting the dots between the principal architect, the standard price book, and $275. You can think of this price book entry as a bridge between the product and the price book. But now, simply because I wanted to sell in one other currency, let's look at how these relationships increase. I had 2 relationships. I had one product, one price book entry. That created 2 relationships. But now, simply because I want to sell in one other currency, I've doubled my number of relationships. Now I have principal architect for sale US dollars and Canadian dollars in the standard price book. Here's how that all adds up. But wait, there's more. Let's just say, for the sake of example, that I wanted to offer products and I wanted to offer services to nonprofits. What is the architecture going to look like here? Well, the data model has not changed. The data model is still product, price book entry. However, the number of records and the number of relationships between the records will increase yet again. I have my nonprofit price book. And now I need price book entries for each product for this new price book in the currencies in which I want to sell. For the sake of example, let's just say that I want to sell in US dollars and Canadian dollars. Let's create some more space here. Let's move this up to there. Okay. So we have now 4 price book entries. We have 2 price books, and we're still only selling one product. But because of the requirement to have 2 price books and to sell in 2 currencies, I now have 4 price book entries. And if we look at the relationships that that's going to create, that has also increased considerably. Where I had a very simple business with only one product, one price book entry, life was beautiful. I had 2 total relationships to think about. Well, now I've got 4 over here and I've got 4 over here. I doubled simply by adding one other currency, and then I doubled again because I added another price book and I wanted to sell in both. Now, for the sake of example, let's just say I only wanted to sell in US dollars to nonprofits. I don't want to do any Canadian nonprofit work. Fine. I don't need a price book entry for that. But I still have far more relationships. So the number of price book entries that you have is a function of the number of products that you have, the number of price books you have, and the number of currencies you have. Plus, for how many currencies and in which price books do you want to sell these things? Now, imagine that I sold 100 different products, and I had 5 different price books, and I sold in 10 currencies. How many price book entries do you suppose I would have? Some of you on this call may or may not be former math teachers and be able to calculate that. I'm taking a statistics class right now, so I would be able to actually punch that in, figure out how many that would be. But it starts to get to be a lot. In an extreme example, I once worked with a client who had, what did they have? They had, I think it was 10,000 products and 100 price books in 48 currencies. And my job on there was only to upload price book entries for 3 of their price books. But the number ended up being 850,000 price book entries or something thereabouts, based on the product, price book entry combinations. Using Data Loader, it took an hour and a half to upload 850,000 price book entries. And the best part is that all price book entries were for $0. The price editable field in CPQ was marked as true for all products, because what the rep was doing is they were looking at their literal price book sitting on their desk and punching in the number into CPQ. Don't ask me why. Doesn't make a damn bit of sense, but that's what they were doing. They made the price editable for all products. All the price book entries were $0, and the rep was literally keying things in. What could possibly go wrong with that approach? Like, why the hell did you get CPQ in the first place if you're just going to let your reps punch in whatever the hell they want? It doesn't make a damn bit of sense. But I digress. I'm going to pause here and open the floor for some questions. I know I talked about a lot of stuff, but I would love to hear any questions you have so far or areas you'd like me to elaborate when it comes to products, price books, and price book entries.
So the price book is just like the master catalog of all the prices. I guess I'm struggling with the difference between a price book entry and the price book.
Sure. Let me clarify. Let's imagine the physical example again. I find physical examples useful. I have the LL Bean catalog in my hand. The physical catalog is the price book. Inside the price book, I see prices for all of the different products that I had that I could purchase.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's weird at first when you start working with it. Also, let me share a quick troubleshooting tip that happens all the time in CPQ. It can happen in Sales Cloud as well. Is you got your product in there, you got your price book, you have your price book entry, and for some reason, can't figure it out. What's going on? I click Add Products in the quote line editor of Salesforce CPQ, and I don't see my product. I'm looking right here. My product is there. My price book is there. My product is active. My price book is active. The price book entries also have an active checkbox. There's an active checkbox on the product, price book, and price book entry objects. If any of those 3 are inactive, you will not see the product in the product selection screen. Happens all the time. I do it to myself, where you forget to create a price book entry. You know, you're in there configuring and you're building product options in CPQ, and you, this product doesn't exist in the system. Let me just create it. And then you go to test it, and now your product option isn't there, or it says, hey, there's no price for this. Well, the reason is because you have to make sure you have a price book entry for it as well. Or maybe you're testing and you just added a Canadian one, but you're trying to test and it's US dollars. Or you've been doing US dollars for a while and you created a quote for Canadian dollars, but you forgot to create the Canadian dollar price book entry for it. It happens all the time. Don't feel bad. Don't beat yourself up over it. I still miss it sometimes, but you must have, I think of it as Orion's belt, right? Orion's belt in the sky is 3 stars in a row. That's what we need to sell products in CPQ. It's what we need to use opportunity products, is we must have active products with active price book entries inside of an active price book.
And the opportunity product is just a redundant of the product list?
An opportunity product is effectively a junction object between an opportunity and a product. It
Okay.
is saying that this product is for sale as part of this opportunity.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
And that's what allows us to have multiple product records or multiple product associations on an opportunity. And it allows this product to be sold on multiple opportunities. If there was a direct relationship between an opportunity and a product, I'd have to like create one product for every opportunity or
Yeah.
vice
That
versa.
makes sense.
So that's where the junction, similar to the price book entry, allows us to have that variability without, so by creating that junction object in between, we're able to account for all those variations. Any other questions on this topic? We could also talk about let's go back to how do I know how many price books to create? Here's what I would encourage based on just years of doing this. When in doubt, use less. When in doubt, use one. Use a standard price book. When you can no longer meet your business requirements with only the standard price book and you, for whatever reason, need to add more, go ahead and use more. But I see it a lot. And usually for reasons that are not, in my opinion, valid reasons. But companies will create multiple price books and further the complexity of their org without a true reason to do so. And they'll say, well, but these products are for sale for this type of industry, or these products are available only when a company is of whatever size. I get that. So they want to have an enterprise price book, and then they want to have an everybody else price book. That might be the right call, but it might not be. So we really need to understand, why do you think you need multiple price books? And for me, until a client can prove to me why they need more than one price book, they're getting one price book. I'm not going to make another one. If you want to make it, go for it. Be my guest, but I will not create another one because I don't see a need for it. The temptation for CPQ or anything is to create way more shit than you need. Yeah, Melody?
I was gonna say, so that's interesting, because I thought the whole point of the multiple price books was like, if you have special contracted pricing with certain, like in my last organization, we worked with all the studios, and so
Yeah.
Walt Disney had different rates than Sony, for example, and so that's where we leveraged price books for the individual based on contracted like pricing.
And that's a very common use case and a good one. You'll have a massive customer that is, I don't know, way too much of your revenue, and you got to kind of cater to them. And so you might create a whole price book just for them. But one of the things we need to keep in mind when it comes to CPQ specifically is, does the ability to do this thing exist as part of CPQ? Because that's a big thing that it happens all the time. Customers, consultants, administrators, whatever, overlook out of the box functions in CPQ because they just don't know it exists. So in this particular case, the right solution could very well be to have a Disney price book and a whatever price book, or it could be to use the contracted price functionality that's out of the box in CPQ, which could be the right solution. It could be the wrong solution, but that's another approach to the same type of thing. Well, Disney gets a 10% discount off of anything they buy from us because it's Disney. They're so big, or Walmart, or you see this a lot with incredibly big customers, right? So it could look like a single contracted price record on the Disney account that just says minus 10% off. And then anytime you sell any product to Disney, or with that functionality, it's child accounts. So you have Lucasfilms underneath Disney, and you could say that Disney and its subsidiaries get 10% off. What CPQ will do with the contracted price function is, I could put that 10% off on Disney, and its children accounts will inherit the same. But I could also say, except Lucasfilms, George Lucas has too much money. I'm going to go ahead and we're not going to give Lucasfilms 10%. We're going to give them 5%. So then you would make an exception to policy. You would say, okay, All other subsidiaries of Disney still get 10%, but I'm going to create one additional contracted price record on the Lucasfilms account for 5% because for whatever reason, I didn't like Star Wars. Full disclosure, I thought Star Wars was cool. The music is so fun to play as a brass player. That's a whole other. I want to stay on topic since I was given some direct feedback on my not keeping on topic. But it's true. I've gotten that feedback for years. And to the person who left the comment, I appreciate the feedback. And that's why I'm doing this deep dive session, is to try to address some of the other things that you were looking for with Revenue Cloud basic information. So this is where I thought I would start. Let's start at the very beginning. This is the ABCs of Sales Cloud. This is ABCs of CPQ, understanding products, price books, and price book entries. So hopefully this is useful and helpful to not only people on this call, but people who watch this in the future. But when I'm thinking about the price books and how many do I actually need, another consideration to keep in mind is, here's another scenario you see all the time. I am Acme Corp and I have a standard price book and I got my different products in here, and then I make an acquisition. I just acquired a company and they have different products and different prices and maybe even different currencies, whatever. So the temptation is I'm going to create a price book for them, for my subsidiary that I just purchased. But the thing we have to keep in mind is, will I ever at any point in the future want my reps to sell both at the same time on the same quote? Because systematically, an opportunity can have only one price book selected. So I could choose this Acme Corp's price book or their acquired company's price book, but I cannot put both in the same field. I can only look up to one record. So I have to go, well, if the customer wants to buy things from Disney and Lucasfilms, just to use this example, they want to buy, I don't know, Bambi and Star Wars DVD sets, because who buys DVD sets? This is a shitty example, whatever. But they want to buy things from both companies. If I'm using two different price books to do that, and I have Bambi up here and I have Star Wars down here, I literally can't do it. It's impossible. I would have to create two opportunities, because an opportunity can look at only one price book. That's just a systematic limitation. And I've had customers say, well, then Salesforce isn't designed right. It doesn't work for our business. No, you don't understand the data model and how the data model works. Once you understand the data model, it makes a lot of sense. You sell stuff or services. You show the customer that stuff or services in a big ass catalog, and that catalog has all the prices for all the stuff. There you go. I sell stuff in this catalog. Here's the price. It's intuitive. It makes a lot of sense. But that's where this is such a critical topic to understand, because it lays the foundation for everything that follows. So for-profit, non-profit, you'll often see those in different price books. That could be the right solution. Having a totally separate price book for nonprofits. We're not going to cross the streams. There's some products that are verboten, or maybe I really have such stark pricing differences between the two. I don't want to conflate them at all or risk anything. Or perhaps we use a more dynamic pricing methodology from a technical architecture standpoint, and maybe I use lookup price rules, which I can talk about in another call, but I might use lookup price rules to query a table, and that table contains all potential prices for-profit, nonprofit, Disney and Lucasfilms. It's all in the same thing, or maybe it's all in the standard price book. But I always try for price book consolidation. I always try for product consolidation. That's another common thing. So that's how I think about some basics of how I think about how many price books I need. How many products do I need? This is a whole philosophical thing, because the number of products that I need before CPQ is probably different than the number of product records I need post CPQ implementation. And here's why. Imagine, if you will, let's go back to my famous peanut butter and jelly sandwich example. I sell peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. and that's my business. So I have PB&J sandwich. These are apparently world-class 3 Michelin star PB&J sandwiches because they're really expensive. Again, ridiculous examples get remembered. So as you're trying to teach this shit to somebody else, make it ridiculous. So I don't know, it's some like 3 Michelin star restaurant in Brooklyn, and they sell PB&J sandwiches with truffle oil and like quail egg on top or something. And oh God, that would be terrible. This example keeps getting worse. This is like a train wreck. Okay, you get the idea. But I sell peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Now, if we think about a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, it's a basic thing. People understand this is a sandwich. I get it. But if you really think about the whole picture of what a sandwich is, you have bread and you have different things you can put inside. And in a PB&J sandwich, we've got bread, we've got peanut butter, and we've got jelly, right? We've got 3 core ingredients. And even within those 3 types of ingredients, those 3 different categories, we might have white bread, wheat bread, gluten-free, spelt, whatever who's eating spelt bread, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, I don't know. But you have different types of peanut butter, you have different types of jelly, all of those variations I can't capture if all I have is one product record for PB&J sandwich. So what you see before companies implement CPQ is you see PB&J sandwich dash white bread dash creamy peanut butter dash strawberry jelly. And then you see the same thing with grape jelly. And then you see, and they have a product record for every combination. Now, if we have, very simply, if we have 2 ingredients in each category, bread, peanut butter, and jelly, well, it's an exponential increase. It's a multiplying effect. So 2 times 2 times 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. I have 8 potential product records that are going to be in here. So, and I'll have to take this call here in just a second and drop. Whoops, forgot about that. I have a career coaching mentorship with a veteran. But that's the thing that we need to remember, is that there's a multiplicative effect of all of this. So if I have 8 ways the product could be sold, I have 8 product records. Well, when I get CPQ, I have a fundamentally different approach to tackling the configuration of this. I can reduce the number of products in the system and let the configurator do that combinatorial work for me. But that's for a future call. I'll hold you in suspense.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later. But thank you for showing up for this office hours. I got to take this
you.
call and do my career coaching. Thanks for coming, and I'll upload this soon.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
Bye.